And with that, we will get going here, folks. Welcome to Armchair Fantasy Football. My name is Corey. We are reacting to the only game so far for the 2024 NFL season, the one that went on last night at around 7:40 after a short delay between the Chiefs and Ravens in AFC Championship rematch, and a couple different headlines. One being Mark Andrews not utilized a whole lot in the way that many would expect, in the way that many drafted him at. He was used as a fullback on some plays, used more for his blocking schemes than anything else. I am looking forward to diving into that. We're going to look at the data we do have. Again, it's not much. If you have any questions about that situation, any questions about late, tardy drafts going into the season, any possible trade opportunities, I do love to jump on this type of thing. Go out and get Isaiah Likely even if I don't need him, because if you have a surplus at a position, all of a sudden you do have trade leverage and that type of thing. I do think there is a lot of opportunity. If it is your first time here, again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football, and I would greatly appreciate it if you'd left a like and subscribe, as well as put any of your fantasy football related questions in the live chat below. You see my fantasy guidelines, 4 of them on the right side of the screen. We have availability. Is this person healthy? Opportunity. Are they getting touches? Are they getting snaps? Are they getting targets? That is something we will look at a lot of today. Kind of a shorter stream. We'll cut it off a little before the 1 hour mark here. Productivity. What are they doing with said opportunity? Do we have high yards per carry marks for rushers? High yards per reception marks for receivers? Good catching percentages. A lot to look at there. And opponent strength. Is there a weak opposition that we can capitalize on and maybe maximize value with a player on? So a few things to look at there. But I do want to start off with just the regular box score. I think we have a bit of an interesting study here considering everything that's transpired so far. Lamar Jackson obviously getting pretty involved in the run game. 16 rushes for 122 yards. I've seen a couple reports that they're kind of going to put Derrick Henry in the fridge or the freezer for at least the first few weeks. Maybe we get into November and they start utilizing him more. Again, he is a running back that is 30 years old. So that's something that the Ravens, a team that ran the ball more than anybody else last season, may monitor. Yeah, he is 30, turning 31 in January. But the big story, right? Baltimore's receiving numbers. I think there's a couple big stories, but the main one being Mark Andrews caught both of his targets for 2 receptions for 14 yards. For you PPR players in fantasy football, that is 3.4 points. Not very exciting. And in his place, the reason a lot of people are panicking right now, Isaiah Likely led the team in targets at 12, led the team in receptions at 9, led the team in receiving yards with 111, had a touchdown. If you watch the tail end of the game, he nearly had 2. He was a toe away. Actually, it's right there. Isaiah Likely's right foot hardly out of play. He catches that. He's got 10 receptions for over 120 yards, I believe, and 2 scores. One of the better tight end performances you'd probably see this year, and that could still hold up what he did here. He had 26 points, 26.1 points in standard PPR. I see we do have Andy in the chat. Andy, how's it going? Put that trade through. So what Andy did was this. If you see him in the live chat there, say what's up to him. Say, hey, Andy. He had Dallas Goedert as his tight end 2 behind Njoku, and had Isaiah Likely behind Njoku, and someone immediately offered him a trade saying, I will give you a stable backup tight end in Dallas Goedert, and I will also give you Gabe Davis, the wide receiver 2, on an offense that is now missing Calvin Ridley, that is now missing, Zay Jones. It's essentially Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Evan Ingram. Maybe the 2 and 3 in terms of target acquisition kind of flip there. So it was Gabe Davis and Dallas Goedert for Isaiah Likely. Here is why I like that trade. Because 24 hours ago, I am not sure Andy gets the same value for Isaiah Likely. I'm not sure anyone would give him Dallas Goedert or Gabe Davis for Isaiah Likely. But now, following that performance, he is getting those offers. That is why I like exactly where we're at right now. And 1 second here. Just realized I had 2 things going on at once. Okay. Now, in a week, in a little over a week, when Isaiah Likely plays again, let's say he goes out and switches lines with Mark Andrews. Again, I heard Mark Andrews was kind of in a bit of an accident. Might not be. Andy says, big smile on my face. Now, good stuff. Good stuff. So again, if you guys are just joining, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We're diving into the Ravens right now. Specifically talking about Isaiah Likely. We will address more of Mark Andrews in a bit. The man in the thumbnail, of course. Isaiah Likely is worth way more than he was 24 hours ago. And unless he repeats or even gets a double-digit fantasy performance in week 2, I don't think he has the same value he has now. I think it goes back down. Everyone is overreacting to what happened last night. Because it is, regardless of how you think the game went, what you think caused what to happen, it is one football game between two teams that were ready to throw everything in the kitchen sink at one another. And again, Mark Andrews might not be at 100%. So I love it. Andy wanted to trade Isaiah Likely. He got an offer to trade Isaiah Likely for Dallas Goedert. Here is my advice to all of you. I want you to go into your app. I'll use Sleeper here. I want you to look up Isaiah Likely. And he is taken in my league, but he is not rostered in 56% of leagues, at least on Sleeper. It's probably a little different on ESPN. And I want you to pick him up. As long as Isaiah Likely is better than the worst person on your bench, I want you to ride these highs and play the market. If you actually need a tight end, I am not calling him your long-term answer. What I am saying is, whether you need Isaiah Likely or not right now, there is value there. There is trade value there. All of a sudden, that 44 mark after 1 week is going to shoot up and up and up and up. 12 targets. You know how many times he had 12 targets last year? Never. He never had 6 targets. I'm sorry, he had 6, 7, and 6. So he had half of those targets on 3 occasions. He had 12 yesterday. This is not me making a case that Isaiah Likely is the tight end of your future. He sure could be. This is me saying what we do know is Isaiah Likely's value has skyrocketed in the eyes of a lot of the fantasy football world. I don't care if you have George Kittle, if you have Sam Laporta, if you have Evan Ingram, if you have Dalton Kincaid, and you are locked down at tight end. If you want to swap out the worst player on your bench, get Isaiah Likely. What do you have? You have a surplus of talent at one position, and now you can deal Isaiah Likely for value. Because guess what? He might never do this season again. Or maybe he'll do it 10 times. But especially if you are set at the tight end position, this is a no-brainer for me. Wheel and deal. Send him out. All right, let's keep looking through the numbers here. Again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. Please, please, please ask me any of your fantasy football-related questions. We are here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent. That is what we are here to do. If you could leave a like and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. We are 27 subscribers away from 1,000. I do have a free Discord, but I will drop the link in the live chat too as well. And of course, always follow my fantasy football guidelines: availability, opportunity, productivity, and opponent strength. We want to take advantage of weak opponents. Chaka is here saying, would you drop Cooks or Braylon Allen for Romeo Doubs? Now, Shaka, I am definitely dropping Braylon Allen for Romeo Doubs because of the guy who is in front of him. Obviously, Breece Hall projected as the RB2 in a lot of drafts. When you look at it from an ADP perspective, I think there is plenty of value in going after somebody like Braylon Allen in a dynasty capacity. But if Romeo Doubs, who is listed as the wide receiver 1 on the Packers depth chart, is available, we are going to take him. I think it's between Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, and I don't think it's close. They actually have Christian Watson up there now. The initial depth chart that came out said it was Doubs, Reed, Watson. Then you go to Wicks, Melton, Heath, Musgrave. But especially, Shaka, if this is standard PPR, we are going to take a receiver over a back. Would you drop Cooks or Allen for Doubs? I would drop Allen for Doubs. Brandon Cooks is older. I do understand he's about 31 years old, but he is on a dynamic offense. Not that Braylon Allen is not, but Braylon Allen is sitting behind one of the few running backs in the league who are successfully doing it all and are consistently being utilized in a capacity to do it all. So many touches for Breece Hall, so I would definitely drop Braylon Allen for Romeo Doubs. That Packers receiving core is wide open. All right, Cap for Life says, gentlemen, what is going on, Cap for Life? You have been like 4 or 5 for 5 on these streams so far. 4 for 4. This is our 4th one in 5 days. Thank you so much for jumping in again, man. Shaka says, thanks. I was just thinking Allen was one of the highest upside handcuffs. I do love Allen if you're looking at long-term upside, but if I am choosing right now this season between Braylon Allen and Romeo Doubs, I mean, Breece Hall is going into year 3. So, Chaka, I am probably still leaning Romeo Doubs in the current situation he's in. I always look at 5-year upside for Dynasty, and I love it with Braylon Allen. We know what Wisconsin, the Badgers, do, right? They churn out amazing running backs. But yeah, thank you for jumping on. If you are not already subscribed, would love if you could do so. I'm going to drop the free Discord link in the live chat here right now. That way, any of you who have not joined can join. You can talk to me about trades. You can go in the general chat and ask me just about anything. See, we've got constant dialogue going on here right now between Andy and a couple of others. But yes, would love if you could join that. We can get some conversations going on for sure. All right. Cap for Life says, thoughts on Wilson from Arizona? Should I drop Doubs or wait after tonight to see if anyone gets injured? I mean, he's still competing with Trey McBride, and he is still competing with Marvin Harrison Jr. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. I know Rondale Moore has been tossed around a little bit. And then I will go back to reacting to what happened yesterday. Folks, we are already at 4 likes, 13 minutes into this stream. Thank you so much. If we could get to 10 as soon as possible, I would greatly appreciate it. Zay Jones suspended, so it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson is the presumed 2, Chris Moore, Zach Pascal. They've got sneaky depth, and then Trey McBride and Elijah Higgins at the tight end spot. So Doubs or Wilson, I think it's a crapshoot right now. Let's just let things play out and kind of see what kind of data we can go off of. The Packers have a much better team overall. They're going to win some more games this year. They're more in line to utilize their bell cow back in Josh Jacobs. Whereas with the Cardinals, even if they win 6, 7, 8 games, they're likely going to be working from behind more than the Packers will be. Chaka says, just subscribe. Thank you for the advice. We are now 27 subscribers away from 1,000. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for supporting here. Again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. If you want to leave any types of questions in the live chat, we're already answering a few here on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Packers-Eagles tonight. If you are starting anybody in that game, you let me know. But yes, we are reacting to what happened last night. The big storylines, of course, Isaiah Likely leading all receivers with 12 targets, and in receptions with 9 of those, and in receiving yards with 111 of those. Had the lone receiving touchdown and was a toe away from having 2. And John Harbaugh was putting up the 2, meaning they were going to go for 2 and try and win it in regulation. Another big storyline. Again, if you just missed it, go get Isaiah Likely, even if you have the best tight end in the league in Sam Laporta right now, and sell him for value. I just got a comment earlier today from Andy in the chat right now, or his handle is MA Football. If you are a Patriots fan, make sure you subscribe to him like I am and get your Patriots news. If you have the best tight end in the league, especially if you have the best tight end in the league right now in Sam Laporta, get Isaiah Likely. Because then he is likely better, see what I did there, than the worst player on your bench, and deal him for trade capital. There is likely somebody in your league who is going to overreact to 1 week, and I suggest that you capitalize on that. This rostered number is going to go up and up and up. Put a waiver claim in, unless you have like the $200 or $100 or whatever dollar cap limit for spending money on waivers. I would get Isaiah Likely and try and utilize him for trade value. I would not suggest getting rid of a tight end that you actually trust to carry the load for you this year. But if you're in a good situation, you trust your tight end one, and you want to get some value, go after Isaiah Likely and deal him. All right. Thank you for the subscription, Chaka. We have Cap for Life saying thoughts on... Oh, I just went to the wrong... Okay, we already answered that. Yeah, I am still going Doubs over Wilson at the moment, but I would just wait to see what plays out here. All right. Let's continue to look around. Another big headline I want to talk about is Justice Hill. For a while, he was leading the team in targets. I want to say about halfway through the game, sometime in the third quarter. Justice Hill, 6 receptions for 52 yards and 8 targets. Now, you have to ask yourself, what type of a role does he really have in this backfield as a running back on the Ravens when Lamar Jackson is going to run it 16 out of the 32 rushing attempt times, or when Derrick Henry is going to get 13 rushes in a scheme where they're likely going to ease him into some more usage as the season goes on? Very valid questions. But if we look at Justice Hill, again, somebody who maybe you want to pick up and try and use in a trade piece, You gotta play these players like stocks. When their value is high, grab them and turn around and deal them right away. Nobody was rostering Justice Hill. A decent amount of involvement the last couple of years, averaging right around 5 yards per carry. A decent amount of involvement despite the fact he had a minor role in this team in the passing game. And actually, I want to look here and see where his snap percentage was at. Okay, so right around, I would say an average of 40 or 50, somewhere in there. If we look at just yesterday's game alone, 54% of snaps. But here's the thing with running backs, right, guys? If somebody has a skill the other guy in the backfield does not, they're going to get utilized. I do not expect Justice Hill to eclipse 7 or 8 rushes per game unless Derrick Henry goes down or they really try and lean off him usage-wise. But what I would expect is for someone who is sharing the backfield with a running back who has never been a pass catcher, I would expect him to fill that vacancy, especially for someone who's going to scramble, try and buy time, look for that last resort in Justice Hill. Well, now I'm intrigued, right? Derrick Henry, his career high for targets in a season is 41 out of 16 games. I believe that there is value, 41 out of 16 games. Let's see Justice Hill. I bet you he's almost matched that despite never being the RB1, sometimes not even the RB2. 39 targets last season. Almost at Derrick Henry's career high, despite the fact he's never been the main guy and at some points wasn't even the second guy in Baltimore when you had Gus Edwards and then J.K. Dobbins and then Justice Hill, right? They even went out and messed around and got Melvin Gordon for a little bit. I think there is actual legitimate value in deeper leagues, 12-teamers, expanded rosters of 10 teams plus, dynasty, expanded benches, where maybe you go out and get Justice Hill and just see. Again, I don't want you giving people up for players who had one good game unless you feel like Justice Hill is a more viable option and gives you more value than the worst guy on your bench. And maybe you're set on running back, and it's the same situation as Isaiah Likely where you go, okay, I can go out and get a running back with pass-catching upside even if I don't need him because I know someone else does. All right, so we do have that. Andy in the chat, good to see you. All right, so 3 out of the 4 of you so far are panicking with the Mark Andrews news. Again, utilized as a fullback a decent amount. The next thing I want to look at with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely is snap percentage. Again, we just have to go off of the data that we have. 74% of snaps, Andrews was out there, but again, we saw him lining up in kind of a fullback role at times. Isaiah Likely, 66%. So Isaiah Likely was actually on the field less than Mark Andrews. I am now not so much buying that Mark Andrews wasn't at 100%. I am buying that Isaiah Likely may be the answer this team is looking for as a receiving tight end going forward. Obviously more athletic. I believe 4 years younger. Likely is 24. Andrews is, I want to say 28. He is 29. Okay? So just something to monitor. If you have Andrews and you want to get a decent backup plan, that's fine. But again, I don't want any of you overreacting to 1 week of football, especially this 1 week of football. I mean, this 1 week of football has the most random stuff you'll ever see. There are teams with a handful of players who we have no NFL tape on. There are teams who we have no 2024 NFL tape on for the next couple of days. Don't overreact too much. Instead, capitalize on others' overreactions. Go out and get Isaiah Likely, and all of a sudden the person with Mark Andrews or the person with not a great tight end situation, maybe their TE1 is Cade Otton, is going, oh, I want Isaiah Likely. I'll trade for Isaiah Likely. Let your league mates chase points. Now, if Isaiah Likely has a great September and a great October, I will backtrack and say, look, now we have a consistent tight end in our hands. But what we know right now is what? Isaiah Likely is worth more than he was a day ago. Andy was able to get Dallas Goedert and Gabe Davis for Isaiah Likely. All right, I'll stop saying his name, but I do appreciate you guys bringing some questions up. Let's answer some more of these here. We have Derek in the chat saying, who to start at wide receiver 2 and flex? With Higgins likely out, we have Higgins, Deontay Johnson, David Montgomery, Jaden Reed tonight, Andre, I believe it's Iosivas, Curtis Samuel. My locked-in starters are Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Garrett Wilson in that Aaron Rodgers-led offense, and Dalton Kincaid. All right, Derek, first off, I really do like that offense a lot. We've got a quarterback with plenty of rushing upside who has finished as the QB1 in 3 of the last 4 years. We've got Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, a very, very consistent rusher last year when he actually got the output. Devon Achane, you're kind of betting on upside with the injury from last year, but Raheem Mostert shares the backfield with him and is 32 years old. Garrett Wilson being led by a future Hall of Famer and someone who hasn't been in good quarterback situations the last 2 years, has two 1,000-yard seasons. Dalton Kincaid, the opportunity is there for him, man. I love to see it. And I also love to see that we are already at 6 likes through 21 minutes, folks. We are reacting to the Chiefs-Ravens essentially fantasy takeaways from the Chiefs-Ravens game yesterday. I am streaming nearly every day this entire season. My name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. You can use my fantasy guidelines on the right side of the screen. I'm here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent. All right, so wide receiver 2 and flex. We're going to assume that Higgins is out. And with that, I am going to go Jayden Reed against a Philadelphia secondary that did not do very well last year. I understand they have Rodrigo Blankenship, who's been making strides, and I understand they have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But I am going to go with Jayden Reed. And I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson against a Saints team that is also looking pretty vulnerable right now. I want pass catchers. We are pretty touchdown reliant when it comes to somebody like David Montgomery, and he has performed in the past. But I am going pass catchers in PPR more times than not. If Higgins is in, I probably go Higgins and Reed. I think Reed has a very vulnerable matchup today. And Jayden Reed, again, technically the wide receiver 1 for the Packers last season. He had the most receiving yards, the most receiving touchdowns, was tied with 8. Was struggling with a calf injury about a month ago. That is no longer an issue. Wide receiver 23, vulnerable matchup. A game that has a over-under of 49.5 total points. Vegas is predicting that 50 total points are scored here. I am going to bet on Jayden Reed. We are 1 like away from 10. If we could get 1 more like on this stream, I would greatly appreciate it. We are also just 27 subscribers away from 1,000. I have been doing this for the last couple of years. We kicked this channel off in 2022. Would greatly appreciate your support. I will support you back. Okay, so Derek, hope that made sense. We're going Reed and Deontay. If Higgins is in, we'll go Higgins and Reed. But I'm big on Jayden Reed, especially tonight in 12-team PPR. Thank you. Using my number 1 waiver position to add Likely next week. And all of you should do just that. Isaiah Likely has value. Even if you don't need him, someone else does. Capitalize and improve your team in another capacity. All right. Yep, trade bait. That's what we like. Andy's saying today is Andrew's 29th birthday. Okay, I didn't think I was crazy when I thought he was 28. If he just turned 29 today, that makes sense. Jesse Banda is here saying Mark Andrews was double covered most of the game, and Andrews didn't practice much before this game due to him being in that car wreck. Do not panic. Trust. Jesse, I agree with you, and that's why I'm telling a lot of people, go and snatch Isaiah Likely, be mature, calm down, but understand there's value there. Use him as trade bait and deal him an upgrade at a different position. But I agree, don't use Isaiah Likely as your long-term answer. We are essentially going to try and capitalize on others' emotions to 1 football game. There is a lot of data to be had out there. I still think Andrews can be the guy. Again, coming off the car wreck, was utilized in a couple different ways. There was a lot of attention on him. Teams are going to cover him differently. Maybe there will be more of a focus on Likely. But by all means, replace your worst bench spot with Isaiah Likely and deal him. Yeah, do not panic. I agree. Buy low on Andrews. That is another approach. Could go out and get a great tight end. We're already at 10 likes. Let's try and get it up to 15, folks. Again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent all throughout 2024. This is my 3rd season here on YouTube. Fantasy guidelines, availability, make sure they are on the field. Opportunity, make sure they're getting snaps, touches, and targets, or at least 2 out of the 3. So again, Andrews was getting snaps, not really targets, not really touches, but again, just 1 football game. Productivity, what are they doing with that? You could apply this to many different situations, but with the running back specifically, we're looking for yards per carry. We are looking for, in the opportunity realm, touches inside the 20, touches inside the 10, touches inside the 5. Now we're in Najee Harris, Ezekiel Elliott territory, right? And opponent strength. Go capitalize on a weak opponent. If you don't see a lot of changes on a certain defense that was allowing the most passing yards per season in 2023, by the way, that's the Commanders. Take advantage of that situation. Go after guys on the opposing offense and have fun with it. I think that is the best way to think ahead and capitalize on what we do know. All right, the roll says, sorry, I am late, but I'm here. Devonta Smith is going to ball out today. I think it's a high-scoring game. Again, the total is set by Vegas at 49.5. So I like our odds there. All right, Derek says, thanks, man. Appreciate the insight. No problem. I see we have Giovanni in here saying running back upgrade ideas. I have a 12-team PPR redraft. Right now, the running backs are Alvin Kamara, Devin Singletary, who is now over in New York with the G-Men. We've got Chase Brown kind of sharing that backfield with Zach Moss, Chuba Hubbard sharing in kind of a committee, and Benson. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Rashee Rice, who had a great night last night, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins. Higgins obviously battling the injury, and then Losivas. I need to learn that pronunciation, but I know who you're talking about. Tight ends, love these. This might be one of my favorite tight end rooms out there. Dalton Kincaid, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, not in a great offense, but not sharing the ball with a whole lot of people outside of Devontae and maybe Jacoby Myers. And Dalton, also a great prospect. Dalton Kincaid, not much target competition in Buffalo either. It's Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, a pretty old Curtis Samuel, and Kincaid coming off a great season. All right. So running back upgrade ideas. You have Kamara, Singletary, Brown, Hubbard, and Benson. Now, I am a big buyer on Brown for 5-year upside if we are looking at Dynasty, and you can kind of adapt that statement and say more like 3 or 4-year upside because, again, running backs don't have a great shelf life. But what I would say is if you can combine Singletary with a bench piece or Singletary with your wide receiver 4, who in this case would either be Rice, Kupp, or Higgins. I mean, those guys are all actually pretty close in ADP. If you can take a weapon who is not your top weapon and combine them with a back, that way that person you're trading with is still getting return in the running back room, you can upgrade and you could swing for Isaiah Pacheco. He had a decent day yesterday, but some people are going to panic and look at the lack of efficiency. He did throw up on the sideline, so the dude is battling. I think you take Singletary and you take, for example, if you want to deal Rashee Rice high before Marquise Brown comes back, Hollywood Brown comes back, that's fine. You could do Singletary and Rice and try and get James Cook. You could do Singletary and Rice and try and get Isaiah Pacheco going into week 2. You could do Singletary and Rice and try and get Derrick Henry as he gets utilized more and more as the weather gets colder and colder. So I say Singletary and a secondary or tertiary pass catcher, and you'll be good. Thank you for the comment, Giovanni. Good to see you, man. Derek says, Losivas is tempting. If both Chase and Higgins are out, then that is your tertiary option. The role said, likely had value, but Andrews has more. Yeah, Andrews is one of the better tight ends and has been. Just picked him up off waivers. Just use him for the trade bait. That's all I'm saying. Already regretting drafting Higgins. It's still early, and Jamar still kind of has the contract drama, so don't worry too much. Yeah, got Andy in here. Good to see you, as always, Andy. Kenny Stay Trill says, Lamar went crazy for me, and thank God I benched Zay Flowers. Hope all is well, my friend. Hope all is well with you as well, Kenny. Zay Flowers, yeah, if we look at him and we kind of want to go around the box score here, Zay Flowers, 10 targets. Now, if you tell me that a receiver has 10 targets, I'm thinking maybe 6, 7, 8 receptions for 50, 60, 70 yards. We're looking in that 10 to 15 point range. Zay had 9 receptions for 37 yards and half PPR. That's 6.7, 9.7 in regular. Not great, but not a situation where I would panic. So if you want to buy low on Zay Flowers, obviously this isn't the case for you, Kenny. You have him. Those who would want to buy low on Zay Flowers, now's a good time to do so. He was still heavily targeted, just never really had those breakout plays. The Chiefs were pretty focused on him. Kenny also saying, is Lamar a sell-high candidate considering less rushing touchdown upside with Derrick Henry in the backfield? I don't know if he's a sell-high because you think about it this way. They're going to utilize him and Derrick Henry in read option, and whoever bites on one party is going to let the other go. Lamar ran free, and I think if anything, having somebody like Derrick Henry take some of the attention off Lamar and it all balances out, I don't think he's a sell-high candidate. I think he's around where he was beginning of the season. Andy says, got both Smith and Reed in one of my minor dynasty leagues. I like to hear it, man. And Billy and Stu Fan says, here from the Rolls channel. Well, good to see you, Billy and Stu Fan. If you have any fantasy football questions at all, feel free to drop those in the live chat below. If you are new to the stream, again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We are here to help you out-research your fantasy opponent, and we are currently, for about the next 15-20 minutes, reacting to the Chiefs-Ravens game yesterday. Lamar had kind of a slow start, but the rushing upside, he started to throw it down the field when his team was behind. That ended up being a nice game for him. All right, fantasy guidelines on the right part of the screen. Pay attention to them, live by them. Help them help you, or use them to help you. Help me help you. We've got availability. Are they on the field? Opportunity. Are they getting touches, targets, and snaps? Productivity. Do they have a good yards per carry average? Or do they have a good yards per reception average? Good catch percentage? What are they doing with their share of the pie? Opponent strength, capitalize on weak opponents. So I would say that. All right, we've caught up with your questions, at least temporarily here. Thank you all so much for being here early on in this stream. Again, reacting to Chiefs-Ravens. Final score was 27-0, but stealing the headlines for the Chiefs was Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy had 1 carry for 21 yards, and if you were on the live stream yesterday, I had told a lot of you with my friend T-Bone, who was coming over from the MV3 podcast, somebody with 4.21 40-yard dash speed is likely going to be an asset in some capacity, and he was. He most definitely was. Xavier Worthy, his first touch, a 21-yard rush, and Xavier Worthy getting targeted 3 times, caught 2 passes for 47 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, I do want to say, for a lot of you who benched him, myself included, not to panic too much. There are speedsters out there like Tyreek Hill, who did work hand-in-hand with Patrick Mahomes. They were able to make it work, but he didn't have much of a route tree from college. And there are receivers out there, Tyreek Hill did have a route tree. And there are receivers like John Ross, who ran a 4.22, didn't have much of a route tree, that's who I was referring to, and didn't have much of a career. I am not saying Worthy will be either. I think he'd be closer to Hill than he would be Ross. That is a huge spectrum to go across. But what I will say, still a decent amount of mouths to feed. Isaiah Pacheco, a couple of targets, pretty even distribution here. Noah Gray just got extended a couple of years for $19 million. I didn't see what the guaranteed number was. Rashee Rice, if he does this a few times this year, he will easily be a 1,000-yard receiver. 9 targets. They didn't have Hollywood Brown. Patrick Mahomes also threw to himself, a little batted down pass. Chris Collinsworth liked that one. I just want to let you guys know that Xavier Worthy did have 4 chances to touch the ball. He touched it 3 times. Now, where I'm curious, right, we're talking about our second of the 4 guidelines, opportunity. How many snaps was he in for? He was in for 63% of snaps. So this is somebody that Andy Reid understands is going to attract a lot of attention. And whether he's a decoy or touching the ball in some capacity, he will be of value. Xavier Worthy is somebody that I am not going to make the Isaiah Likely claim about because, again, we know Andrews was hurt. Yes, Hollywood Brown was not in this game, should be back in week 2. But I do think there is some serious value in an Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes-led offense that likes to use pre-snap motions, that loved using Tyreek Hill all over the field when it comes to having a 21-year-old out of Texas with the best 40-yard dash time in NFL history. 63% snap percentage. If you have Xavier Worthy, you definitely have some value. Not someone who got a ton of touches, but capitalized on minimal touches. I like the 63% snap percentage. I'm curious to see where the targets, the receptions, and even the rushes go as well. Because if you can do a lot with a little, you're going to start to get a lot, if that makes sense. I mean, Xavier Worthy wasn't given the ball a whole ton, yet he still performed. I'm actually pretty excited to see what happens there. We can look at Isaiah Pacheco. Somebody I was a big buyer on. I felt that he deserved to be a 2nd, 3rd, 4th round pick, depending on the format that you do play in. He had 3 yards to carry, so not very efficient, going up a pretty tough Ravens front 7. Did throw up on the sidelines, so didn't really have the best day. Kind of had to grind through it. And 3 targets, 2 receptions. He took his first reception and first target for 23 yards. So we still saw the pass catching upside. Again, this is someone who had a lot more involvement in the passing game last year as opposed to the year before. Now, they were more, it's interesting, right? 5.5 yards per reception. These were true dump-offs where Mahomes was scrambling behind the line of scrimmage. Pacheco was running short route combinations, getting out of bounds, or had to make up a lot of ground. So there is that. But again, a speedster, he was used in the kickoff return unit a couple of years ago, more dedicated to that RB role. I like the touches. I mean, we've got an opportunity for 18 touches. He had 17 of them. He touched the ball more than anybody else on this team not named Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Rashee Rice had 7 touches. No one really competing with Pacheco in the backfield and no one doing anything to take touches away from Pacheco. That's why I'm not worried. Oh, Corey, it's just 3 yards per carry, 3 flat. That doesn't look too great. Yeah, I agree, but Carson Steele didn't do anything to take his job. Xavier Worthy is going to have his own type of rushing packages because he has that lateral speed. I mean, this is a fast team all around, right? Folks, I do see we are at 13 likes. If you could toss in 2 more likes and get us to 15 on this live stream, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, my name is Corey. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. Pay attention to those fantasy guidelines on the right side of the screen: availability, opportunity, productivity, opponent strength. And of course, as always, ask me any questions that you have in the live chat below. We do have a free Discord where you can jump in and ask me questions related to fantasy around the clock. We have a tab dedicated to just general chat, trade chat. I have my own research tab as well where I am dumping numbers, some related to yesterday, all over you to try and help you. We'll look around here a little bit more. I did say Rashee Rice had a nice day at the office. Noah Gray just recently got extended. Travis Kelce, another year older. Justin Watson, not much doing, and that was about it. Juju Smith-Schuster technically was involved as well. Just got recently picked up again after he was let go by the Patriots. I'd be interested to see how involved he ends up being. Again, not very worried about Zay Flowers with the 10 targets on the 6 receptions. Yes, not a great performance, but he did have a decent amount of involvement. Rashad Bateman looks like he's going to be that deep target for Lamar this season. Likely, I will tell you all again, even if you don't need him, get Isaiah Likely, drop the worst player on your bench, and use him as trade bait. He is valued. Andy, who is in the chat right now, his name's MA Football on YouTube. Andy got an offer for Isaiah Likely where it was Dallas Goedert and the wide receiver 2 on Jacksonville in Gabe Davis. 24 hours ago, if you were to try and trade me Gabe Davis for Isaiah Likely, I would say, or you were trying to give me Isaiah Likely for Gabe Davis, I'd probably say no. If you wanted to do Dallas Goedert for Isaiah Likely straight up and I was getting Isaiah Likely, I would say no. Now, all of a sudden the perception in the market has changed. I don't think anybody should panic. I really do just think that a lot of you guys need to take advantage of the panic. Please, please, please pick up Isaiah Likely and deal him. I think I've said that way too much. 19 subs away from 1,000, the roll says. Thank you all so much. That means we've got 9 on this stream alone. I appreciate you all so much. The roll said Juju is signed. I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised to see his name there. I knew they had him. I wasn't sure if he was going to get any touches or targets. I wasn't sure how much opportunity he'd have, but that is pretty interesting. Patrick Mahomes, nothing to worry about here. Obviously not a great day at the office. Had a turnover. Only 1 passing touchdown. I had the benefit of playing against Patrick Mahomes this week, which, why would you want to start your season against Patrick Mahomes? Well, he was going up against a tough defense and didn't do very well. Keep an eye on Kelce and Gray. So Gray got extended for the next 3 years. Again, somebody who saw a bit of a bigger role last year, not by much, but when Kelce was out, he was the option that would fill in. If we go to 2023, you can kind of fill in the cracks here. 305 receiving yards for 2 scores, 41 targets, so we're looking between 2 and 3 a game. And he never had more than the 5 targets he had in the opener, and I believe Kelce did not play in that game against Detroit. But Noah Gray did sign a 3-year contract. For you dynasty owners, I'd be curious to see how much he gets tried out this year, because Noah Gray, we'll see if his spot track is updated. Or, excuse me. So if he's locked down for the next 3 years, that means he is locked down through 2026. Travis Kelce is locked down through 2025. So potentially in 2026, if the Chiefs don't make a move, it'll be Gray's. Maybe that's more of a stretch than I thought. If this was the last year for a 35-year-old in Travis Kelce, I'd have more concerns, and maybe I would be more invested in Noah Gray. Otherwise, not so much. I did talk about this before, but for those of you who are just joining, Justice Hill, that is a very intriguing story to me. Obviously, he's going to be the lightning to Derrick Henry's thunder if they do follow the trend that we saw yesterday. Justice Hill with 8 targets, the 3rd most targeted receiver. And we found out that Derrick Henry's career high in targets was 41. Justice Hill had 39 last year in a backfield where sometimes he was the RB3. So this is somebody who is going to be utilized in the passing game. I am not sure how much. Again, Mark Andrews, maybe we'll see a bigger role going forward. I still am not ready to take Isaiah Likely over him. If I were to do one of those tight end rankings videos right now, I am not taking Isaiah Likely over him. But an interesting thing to watch. We need to capitalize on players who have high value. Now, I think there, again, is a place for Xavier Worthy throughout the year. 4.21 speed in that offense. The last time we saw that type of speed in that offense was Tyreek Hill, and that ended up going pretty well. And again, not worried about Isaiah Pacheco with the lack of efficiency. Tough game for him. He was thrown up on the sidelines, kind of a flu game. Not everybody's MJ. They can't thrive when they've got the flu. He still did get into the end zone. He was the guy over and over and over again. And the fact that Isaiah Pacheco had 17 touches and 18 chances to touch the ball yesterday, if anything, it only reaffirms to me that he will be a reliable source out of the backfield. Very high on Isaiah Pacheco. I expect top 6, top 8 this year. The roll says, screw it. In your league that I'm in, I'm going to start Dobbins against Vegas over Pollard against Chicago. Might as well get a start from Dobbins while he's still healthy, right? Yeah, so Dobbins sharing that backfield with Gus Edwards, but Dobbins' projection has been going up more and more and more, and that depth chart, it kind of feels like it's in flux. Before you do that, I just want to see. Yeah, so it's still Edwards, then Dobbins. I mean, yeah, while he's healthy is a big statement, right, the role, because all of a sudden we're looking at someone who, for his entire career, I believe is averaging well over 5 yards a carry. 5.8 yards a carry for J.K. Dobbins. Just imagine one season of this. Now, what is the problem with this stat line? It is the accumulated stat line over the course of the last 4 seasons, 3 of which he has played in, 2 of which he's played at least half the games in, and not even. 8 out of 17 is not half. J.K. Dobbins has played 9 games in the last 3 years. He missed all of 2021. I will say on a couple of breakaway runs last year, he doesn't look as fast. I am not an NFL scout. But if you have a decent amount of knee injuries and surgeries and readjustments and all that jazz, I am not too high on a product at all. Now, Pollard is fighting with Tyjae Spears. So I would say, now if there's anything that's kind of weak about the Bears on defense, it would be their front line, their front 7. The secondary was great. They led the league in turnovers forced in the last 8 weeks of last season. So something to keep in mind. I'm not big on Pollard because I was big on him 2 years ago. He had the backfield to himself, didn't look great, and then went down with an injury. Hasn't looked the same since. Tyjae Spears, on the other hand, was very efficient at times last year, was the more efficient back between himself and Derrick Henry, and has serious pass-catching upside. So I might honestly still lean, I don't know if I would lean Pollard. Dobbins against Vegas. You're going to be betting that essentially the Chargers win that. The Chargers are favored by a field goal. Yeah, I'd roll with that, I guess. Those are 2 tough options. The roll 07. If you don't answer this in the next couple minutes, that's fine. Go in the Discord and ask me, or I'll ask you who is on waivers for you. Because I'd be kind of curious on that one, right? All right, well, in summary, folks, Lamar and Derrick Henry out of the backfield is very deadly. You know, if you were curious as to who else would be getting touches, Zay Flowers even got more than Justice Hill, but we have 29 of the 32 carries were by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. We saw that read option look a few times. They were pulling guards to try and help and create even more deception. That is going to be a nightmare for defenses, unfortunately, for the Ravens. They, A, came up short, and B, went up against the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. Isaiah Likely, I am not ready to tell you he is above Mark Andrews, but if you know somebody in your league who is and is reaching for him or might be expressing interest in him or has a need at the tight end position, is panicking, or has Mark Andrews and thinks they need to do like a handcuff situation, go out and get Isaiah Likely. Again, he is owned in 44% of leagues, and use him as trade bait. I cannot stress that enough. If we know anything right now, it is that the value is there for Isaiah Likely. Use him as trade bait, not enough data to go off of otherwise, and just swap him out for the worst player on your bench. If you're in an 8-team league, maybe don't worry about it. But if you're in a 10 or 12-team league, expanded roster, dynasty of some sort, I'd be interested. Again, Justice Hill, serious pass-catching involvement. We've seen it in the past. Now he took on a more minor role since he is the listed RB2 behind Henry, not the 3 like he has been in years past. Zay Flowers, the opportunity was still there, just going up against a tough defense and tough team. I'm really not worried about him. If anything, go buy low on Zay Flowers. I would not sell Zay Flowers. Again, we're not overreacting after 1 week. We are going to take advantage of those who are overreacting. We go over to, and again, not worried about Mark Andrews this early. You could buy low on him if you want. Lamar is still a top 5 quarterback. Obviously, the rushing upside, if anything. I got asked if Derrick Henry might hurt his output. I think it kind of evens out because, yes, Derrick Henry will probably get more carries than the pass running backs and Gus the Bus and J.K. Dobbins, who's been hurt, and Justice Hill. But Derrick Henry poses a huge threat, and all of a sudden, maybe a lot more linebackers and members of that front 7 are biting on Henry and not paying attention to Jackson. He gets out in the open field and scores a lot more for you. Mahomes, tough day at the office, not worried. Pacheco, not worried about the lack of efficiency. The dude was throwing up, and yet he still had 17 touches, 18 chances, and he had 75% of the touches out of the backfield, and really it was 15 of 18, so that's 80% because Patrick Mahomes took 2 of those rushes. Not worried about Carson Steele. Nobody else did anything significant. Xavier Worthy, somebody to keep an eye on. I would hold on to him if you have him. I would not sell him high. He only had 3 touches, took 2 of them for touchdowns. He ran a 4.21. I am very excited to see what he does in that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes-led offense. Rashee Rice, we expected a step forward, especially with Marquise Brown out. That's exactly what we got. Noah Gray just got extended for a couple of years. Keep an eye on him long-term for Dynasty. If you like having a 3 or 4 year plan, he should probably be in it. And that's about all my takeaways there. Today I learned that Juju did get a target. I guess I missed that part of yesterday. But 27-20, your final, Chiefs over the Ravens. I do hope that I helped all of you. Let's look over here. The roll says, are you sub to Sleazeball, Big Draft Energy, and Bayou Bengal? They're all fantasy football YouTubers with good content. I think I'm subscribed to Bengal, but I'll look. Sleazeball sounds familiar, so I'll go take a look at that as well. So 53% of you panicking about the Mark Andrews situation. I wouldn't. I would go get Isaiah Likely, regardless of your tight end situation. This is the last time I'll say it. Go get Isaiah Likely and deal him. Go find someone who is panicking or who thinks that all of a sudden Isaiah Likely is a top 10 tight end. And if he is, cool. But what we know right now is he is worth more than he was 24 hours ago. And especially this early in the season, that is a serious value hike. Andy just got Dallas Goedert, an established tight end that some could start, a handful of teams could start, and Gabe Davis for Isaiah Likely. Pretty cool stuff. Take advantage of it. The roll says I have a side bet with one of my league mates. Pretty simple bet. If I have a higher record, I win and vice versa. Good stuff, man. And good stuff to all of you. Thank you for interacting. Again, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you ask me any questions in the live chat below, or you can ask me questions in the comment section once this live stream is archived. Remember, availability, are they healthy? Opportunity, touches, targets, and snaps. Productivity, what are they doing with those opportunities? And take advantage of weak opponents. Go after those bottom defenses, and if you're streaming defenses, go after those bottom offenses. The roll, make sure that you show me your teams in Discord, and I will get to you then. Speaking of Discord, I did drop our free Discord link. You can join the Armchair Army. There's about 23, 24 of us. Ask me questions about fantasy football around the clock. Otherwise, we will be live streaming tomorrow. Enjoy the Packers and Eagles tonight, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.